Ladies and gentlemen, he's back! And after hearing from Chris Murphy, and we had to go to our usual, our favorite big man. And obviously, we have a lot to speak about with him because Bentley said a few things about him. I watched Nonstop Action Wrestling's Fire and Gold once again. And while I did see a new champion, I was like, well, where was the guy that arguably could be that champion right now? And certainly, we're going to get into all of that here, plus a lot of GTM talk. And plus, I have an announcement in a little while because I'll actually be meeting somebody who's a world champion right now in person tomorrow in New York. So that's going to be a really cool thing. So let's get straight to it. So without further ado here on the Sports Report, number one Global Sports Show pro wrestling star here from GT Ministries and Nonstop Action Wrestling. That is the My friend, how are you?
Very good, Tom. Very good. Great introduction as always. Really appreciate it. Appreciate coming up back on the show and having me as well.
Of course, as always, and I want to give a shout out to George Kennedy, of course, GT Ministries fan says, "Hey Tom," and Disciple, and I always say, well, this is the George Kennedy I like, because I always said famously in Brooklyn, I played basketball as a kid with a George Kennedy, and actually we kind of had a little bit of a rivalry, but this George Kennedy, I'm a huge fan of. But obviously, it is good to be with you here, champion. Obviously we'll have a lot to get into. I want to get to Bentley's words here in a little while, but, I'm watching Nonstop Action Wrestling, Fire and Gold, and I watched their Battle Royal, and obviously I was watching, and I see also who wins this championship, the wild card Tommy Dillon, and we spoke about a little bit yesterday, Mr. Sportswire, Kyle Kennedy, but the guy that I think a lot of people would have probably thought at the very least would have been in the finals was Disciple. And I got to speak about that for our audience watching and listening to this here on Sportswire Radio. I mean, I kind of feel like, as crazy as it sounds to me, I might be speaking with the uncrowned and the real champion of Nonstop Action Wrestling and you, my friend, because the wildcard Tommy Dillon, last I checked, didn't beat Disciple.
Absolutely right, and I'm not going to take anything away from Tommy Dillon. He became the first ever NSAW world class champion, and I'll give props to him. He fully deserves it. If anyone's going to get it first time round, and it's not going to be me, it's definitely going to be Tommy Dillon. He's the rightful champion. Listen, if I was there, we don't know who would have been in the final, but we can guarantee that it probably would have been a Disciple Tommy Dillon final for that championship. And I know for a fact that I would be walking out as NSAW champion. That didn't happen, unfortunately, but my sights are still set on that gold. I'm still coming for it.
Oh, I know that you're coming for it. And we know, which everybody's been talking about, the fact that you said within 12 months, you're going to be a world champion. And somewhere it's going to happen. And I think Nonstop Action Wrestling is at the top of the list. I mean, but let's come back to it, because obviously you're right. To me, in my mind, and I watched the show again and rewatched it. In fact, you can actually watch it on Instagram, believe it or not. You can go to NSAW Wrestling UK and you can watch it. In fact, that's what I did, actually. I watched it this morning and I watched it last night. So I appreciate everything Nonstop Action Wrestling does. But do you feel like in that sense, though, that is there a what if in your mind? Because again, I think when we looked at the card and we looked at who was at the top of the list, to me, I mean, you were the guy who's been a world champion on that roster and who's obviously in that tournament was a world champion. You had the experience. And since you've come back, I mean, you're right back to where you were a few years ago. I mean, do you feel like it's a what if, though?
Yeah, definitely. I think when you look at the final, there was, J. Ray Lewis in the final with Tommy Dillon. Both guys are very, very experienced. That just goes to show that it is experience that outclassed everyone else on the day, and that definitely would have been the case had I been there. Unfortunately, circumstances dictated otherwise, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to be coming for that championship. And I know young Horace won his battle royal. Whether it's Horace, Tommy Dillon, it could be Remus Kane for all I care. It could be Robert DeCaro, it could be anyone. I'm coming for that world class championship.
Let me ask you a question though. Do you have any advice for a wild card Tommy Dillon and somebody like yourself who's been a world champion, who's been a main eventer? I know Tommy Dillon's been around for a while and he's our head trainer, but I feel like in a lot of ways it's so different in terms of being a world champion for the first time. And what advice would you give maybe to a Tommy Dillon, if any?
Well, it's a lot of experience, and it's a big responsibility, and a lot of people will be gunning for you. They'll be gunning for you anyway. They're always gunning for that top spot. And listen, you don't get into wrestling just for the fun of it. You want to get in there to be the best you want to be. You want to be the world champion. You want to be champion. You want to be the number one guy in that company. So when you've got that belt, people will be coming for you from all different directions. So you've got to be ready for it. You've got to be ready to stand and fight. It comes with the territory, unfortunately.
I always feel like, though, in a lot of ways, that when you become a chaser to the guy that's being chased, it is a different mindset. I know Tommy Dillon's a great story, and like you said, well-deserving champion, and we're going to have him actually on here next Thursday. But that's not my actual announcement, but next Thursday, we are going to bring the champion, and I had a good conversation with him, so I look forward to speaking. It'll be his first interview since he won that world-class title. But I always do feel like in a lot of ways, though, there is a transition. Listen, we see it all the time in wrestling history. I mean, Daniel Bryan, to me, is the biggest example. Was a great chaser, but when he was a champion, it wasn't the same. I mean, CM Punk,
Yep.
you can make the argument for. Mankind. There's a whole list. I mean, I could go up and down the roster. You've been in both situations. So I do feel like that there's an adjustment there. And frankly, I mean, you did say, though, it doesn't matter to you whether it's young Horace or the wild card Tommy Dillon. But I would have to think, though, you would prefer young Horace, because I would think, I know young Horace on a great run, and Chris Murphy had his arguments for sure about that, and obviously kind of how he was out of the battle royal. But I kind of feel like in a lot of ways, young Horace would be more of a maybe better path for you to reclaim gold, no?
I'm not one to go down an easy path, as it were. I'll take whatever comes my way. Whether there's match stipulations, whether it's an Iron Man match, whether it's a 2 out of 3 falls match, it could be a triple threat, it could be a fatal 4-way, it could be anything. At the end of the day, like I said, my sights are set on being the number one guy, being the top guy, being the champion, and I'll fight as hard as I can for it.
Oh, you've always been that way. And listen, and to speak about Iron Man matches, I actually interviewed 2 wrestlers last week here in the States that are actually doing a Iron Man match, a 30-minute Iron Man match. So at this point, you just never know here. And of course, we're speaking with pro wrestling star here, Disciple. And if you like what you hear from Disciple, give him a follow on YouTube. Give him a follow and like on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And I got a feeling that he is going to be getting gold here. And then what was your impressions then of Fire and Gold, just watching from afar? Because another sellout, and it was a great crowd, and just loved the energy. And what was your impression of the show overall?
Well, I did watch the show, and it was great to see everyone step up. I think it's when you've got an event like that that's history making. People will step up their game, and they want to do their best. And at the end of the day, the world class championship was on the line. So everyone's going to fight tooth and nail to get it. So it was a great event. Everyone worked really, really hard. They've done well. However, it would have been different if Disciple was there.
I think, listen, now, no question, we saw what happened with Mr. Sportzwire, Kyle Kennedy, but I think it's a little different when you step up with the big boys, the big leaguers, and Disciple. If you're in that tournament, I mean, to me, we're speaking right now, and you've got the gold on your shoulder. I mean, are you a shoulder or waist guy when it comes to holding the title?
I'm a shoulder guy.
I figured that. I knew. Listen, I asked Andre Decker that question on Monday, and he looked at me, and it was like shoulder. So I figured with the size you're in, the shape you're in, I asked Chris Murphy that question, and Chris Murphy said the same thing here. So I have no doubts that that's going to happen here sooner rather than later. But I'll come back to Nonstop Action Wrestling for sure in a little while. But I want to talk about GT Ministry, because obviously we have a wrestling church coming up this Saturday, and we had Bentley on, and I'm sure you heard some of the comments here about Bentley, and he had to say, because obviously you were in the Rumble, we spoke about it, and obviously Bentley wasn't in that Rumble, and Bentley felt that he could arguably been that guy that would be right now facing Jack Johnson, and certainly wanted to get your reactions to that. I defended you, by the way. I want to let you know, I know Disciple. I know that Disciple, just like Slugger Hampton, even though Slugger said a few things about us on Sportswire Radio and such, I don't see you being that kind of guy that would attack Bentley in some alley from behind. You'd be the kind of guy that get right in his face and say, you know what? I'm going to take you down because you can. And also, we've seen the history. And you guys were here right before the last show at Numbers. You guys were here literally face to face. So to me, Disciple, whether who done it and who attacked Bentley, I think you're off the list. What do you think, though, about what Bentley had to say?
It was interesting. I'm not going to confirm nor deny anything. I was busy at the time. Let's put it that way. And listen, it's Bentley's fault for not having eyes in the back of his head. You know for a fact that if you're going to go into a rumble when there's the stipulations are that high, you've got to be careful. There's going to be people all around trying to eliminate you and take you out. And unfortunately, he just showed his immaturity.
Interesting, because you would think Bentley, the size of him, the shape, and of course, he's had his own issues. Sean Only, we've seen in the past, and obviously your history with him, and even Jack Johnson and Rarebit, by the way. Rarebit, of course, he wrestled also in BTW. And you would think, though, especially with such an event like what we saw at Numbers, where so much was on the line here, that to your point, maybe he would have been much more tuned to his situation and his circumstances and kind of his set. Because they always say, keep your eyes in the back of your head as well. Keep your front eyes in the back, especially where he was. So maybe you make a point to that.
Absolutely. Like I say, at the end of the day, the stakes were high. A championship opportunity was on the line, and he knew that. And I think Bentley showed his naivety, and unfortunately, he paid the price.
Oh, he definitely did. And of course, we didn't even see him in there. And I almost have to ask you this question. I wasn't going to ask Bentley this question, but I have you on because you made some good points. And I am probably going to get a lot of flack from the GT Ministries fans. And of course, Blue Glasses Girl, love Blue Glasses Girl, everything she does. But I'm going to throw something completely crazy out there because Bentley and I were speaking. It was almost like similar to the whole situation on who ran over Stone Cold. But I'm going to ask you something. You're going to probably be surprised at what I'm about to ask you. But do you think there's any possibility even that, let's say, a Gareth Angel could have been involved? I mean, I'm going way out there, but I mean, nobody's brought his name up toward this. I mean, what do you think about that?
Well, listen, not at the end of the day, not everybody's perfect. There is always dark in us, no matter how Gareth Angel likes to portray himself. There's always a hidden agenda with everyone. So who knows?
And that's exactly, listen, and I'm glad you brought that up because that's exactly, I was kind of thinking about it, but then when Bentley spoke about Jack Johnson and obviously the history that those two had, okay, that makes sense. All right, that would have been, I could have believed that. But then Slugger Hampton's name kind of got thrown out there by some of the CCW crew. And I said, you know what? I know Slugger. Even though Slugger called me out, he called me out personally. So Slugger to me is the kind of guy, knowing him now, that I don't think he would have did that. I've gotten to know you now the past several months. I've obviously known a good friend of yours in the Playboy Prince, Lance Rivera, for quite a while. The Ronin Brian Aidenson I know very well. You don't strike me as that kind of guy. But just going completely out there in left field, I mean, Gareth Angel had a lot on the line. He wants to get that championship back. He's the face of GTM. I would just think automatically that would have been a guy at least to throw out there.
Well, it's definitely a shot, and like I say, you never know if there's a hidden agenda, and especially if he's the guy that he's the face that runs the place, and if you didn't like the attention that Bentley's getting, then who knows, jealousy could have set in.
And think about it, Bentley and Gareth Angel. Now that's somebody that Bentley, like yourself, like a Slugger, for example, that could be the kind of person that could eliminate Gareth Angel from getting that championship that he wants, from getting to where he needs to be, because there's no question that Gareth Angel's got a lot of pressure right now. He's got a lot on the line right now. So, I mean, obviously those are things there. And I got to ask you, because I know I'm going to get the answer that I expect, but I still got to ask you anyway. I mean, Bentley and the Metal God Alex Boylan for the Stairway to Heaven qualification match coming up here. I mean, you have any inclinations on that? I mean, Bentley had some strong words for Alex Boylan, but does it matter to you on who wins that match, or what do you think?
Again, no, not really. I mean, I had a bit of a run-in with Boylan at the Numbers GTM Numbers event in the Fatal 4-Way with Boylan. We didn't really have much interaction in that match as much as I would have liked. So it doesn't bother me. I would like to get my hands on Bentley again. I think I need a bit of payback for what he did to me when we had our main event a little while
Several
back.
months ago. Yep.
Yeah, so I definitely, either one I'd like to get my hands on.
Well, speaking of Gareth Angel, because Mr. Angel is obviously with us here on Sportswire Radio, and I knew that I was pushing some buttons here when I did this, and Mr. Angel has responded. I'd love to get your thoughts on this. And Mr. Angel says, I was already in the ring when Bentley was attacked. I want everyone to succeed in GTM, whether that is Bentley, Rarebit, or even you, Disciple. I mean, boy, kind of testy words there a little bit. You have a thought or two on what Mr. Angel had to say?
Listen, he may have been in the ring at the time that it happened, but he's definitely got his contacts, and he might not have done the job himself, but he could have easily given it to someone else.
But I will say, to Mr. Angel's point, Rarebit is a good one. Rarebit is definitely a good one because, to be fair, they have a history, Bentley and Rarebit. There's definitely some history there. It's boiled over in BTM and GTM and BTW. I'm tongue-tied at this point, all the names. But the point is that there's history there. So I could kind of see where Mr. Angel's going with that. But it doesn't matter to me because I know one thing. You're in Stairway to Heaven. You're going to win that next month, and you're going to face whoever walks away from Gareth Angel and Jack Johnson. So I have no doubt to me. Listen, Sean Only could be in the match. Listen, Bentley, Alex Boylan, Slugger Hampton. It don't matter because the run you're on right now, I think it speaks for itself. And I wanted to ask you this question also related to GT Ministries. And, of course, if you like what you hear from GT Ministries, please give GT Ministries a follow on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter at GT Ministries UK because I love GT Ministries, and I cannot wait for Saturday's show here, which is now going to start earlier than usual, 3 p.m. So 3 p.m. British Standard Time. And, of course, September 24th is our big show, the biggest show of the year that is upcoming, and Disciple is going to be a big part of that. And obviously, I had spoke about with Bentley on the BBC documentary that's going to be taking place on GT Ministries September the 16th, 7:30 p.m. on a Friday. And wanted to get your thoughts on how big that is for the company and having BBC cover GT Ministries in this documentary, and how big is this for the company and just overall wrestling in the UK?
Absolutely massive. Obviously, BBC is one of the big channels here in the UK.
Oh, I have it here in the States. I can't tell you how I have it, but I have BBC.
So it's great for the company. It's great for British wrestling. I think British wrestling's gone through a bit of a tough time over the last couple of years. So we're sort of getting back up to where we should be now, and the British wrestling scene is booming now. Better than ever before, and we've got some great names emerging. But yeah, it's amazing for GTM, and it's going to be brilliant for British wrestling.
Why do you think that is? I haven't asked you this question. I've done so much wrestling coverage in the UK, and I even hear this from different wrestlers, and I want to say who, and I hear some different things about UK wrestling. But I watch, and I think, listen, people ask me all the time, they say, Tom, what wrestling do you watch? And I say, I watch GTM. I watch Nonstop Action Wrestling. I watch our friends over in the LWF, KOW, Odyssey. It goes on and on and on and on, and CCW as well. And I think it's just amazing, the scene we have here. But yeah, I mean, do you feel the scene is strong as it's ever been? Does it need changes? Anything like that? Do you? Because you've obviously been here a long time in the business, and especially in this scene where you've seen it all pretty much.
Yeah, I think, like I say, I think the last couple of years were pretty tough. It went through a bit of a brutal phase, if I'm quite frank. So I think it's definitely booming now. We've got a lot of great companies in and around the UK, up in the northwest, down south. Up in Yorkshire way. It's doing really, really well at the minute, and the only way we can keep going is up.
Absolutely. Onward and upward and nonstop, never stop here, because we are with pro wrestling star here, Disciple, and he's got his eyes on some prizes coming up here. That Nonstop Action Wrestling World-Class title at GT Ministries World Championship. So something tells me, like I keep saying, it's going to be a very, very big future when it comes to Disciple. And I have another comment in here which I want to get to, and Disciple will be a future NSAW champ. I told you, listen, I'm glad, Disciple, that somebody finally has heard what I've been saying for the past few months, that you are going to be the NSAW champion. And this individual, I want to say, who might know an individual, knows his stuff. And this guy, I want to say, is top notch, and he's a phenomenal dude. I just want to say that he's a phenomenal guy and somebody that I'm proud to call a friend. But, I mean, I couldn't agree. I'm glad finally that I'm not the only person that thinks that way, Disciple, anymore. I'm just glad.
No, it's great to see and appreciate the kind words. Listen, it's going to happen. I've never been more focused in my career. I know that this year is going to be a very big year for me, no matter what happens, and I'm really, really looking forward to it.
Absolutely, no question about it. I also feel like in a lot of ways, as crazy as it sounds, you do feel similar to the guy I had on last night, and that's Chris Murphy, where I feel like your comeback is going to be better than the first act, where I feel like you have a lot more on the line here. And I want to get to another comment in here because enough about me. And best spine buster in the game. Absolutely. Listen, I was waiting for somebody. I'm surprised. Listen, all these people that come on, why haven't they pointed out that the best spine buster in the business is Disciple? I mean, nobody has a spine buster like yours, and certainly, I'm glad that I'm sure you're happy to see that comment.
Yeah, listen, I'm not going to beat around the bush and blow my own trumpet, but I am. I see spine busters near on every wrestling show that I'm on. A lot of wrestlers do the spine buster, and it's. I was actually speaking to someone a few days ago, and it's something that I've perfected over 9 years. I'm proud of the Salvation Spine Buster. When I give it, I make sure that I give it everything. And I've perfected it over 9 years. It's not just something I've picked up and learned one day. I've perfected it. I've watched countless videos of different people doing it. Arn Anderson and Triple H are the inspirations behind the Salvation Spine Buster. So I've put a lot of work and effort into that. So when I do hit it, you're damn sure it's going to be lethal.
How hard is it to perfect a move like that? Because you mentioned Triple H, and there's so many wrestlers I can think of that have used the spine buster, and that is not an easy move. I mean, I watch wrestling matches pretty much all over the world at this point, and I see guys do different things, and that is not an easy move to pull off. I mean, Bentley did the underhook double arm DDT in the LWF, but the spine buster, that what you do, I mean, I couldn't agree here with the comment. I mean, how difficult is it to perfect that move the way you've wanted it to?
It's been very difficult. Obviously, you know, I've been in the ring with people of all different sizes. You know, tall, short, big guys, small guys, and it's just something that you have to adapt. I've been in a rumble before. You might have seen the footage where I've done 8 spine busters in a row, one after the other. And then when I got
that's
to the
why I
last
said,
one,
how difficult is it to do it the way you do? Because to do anything 8, I mean, doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah,
know?
I mean, and the last guy, you know, he was a big guy, and I hit it, and it was a sweet spine buster, and like I say, these are the things that you just have to practice and perfect, and you know, you can't just one day just do it. It doesn't work like that. You have to, and you know, this is the whole thing that I mentioned when it comes to training guys and training, you know, new wrestlers, is that you've got to perfect it. You've got to keep doing it and doing it and doing it, so it's repetitive, and you learn it, and you can perfect it and master, you know, professional wrestling.
Well, no question that for whatever reason, I keep thinking of the LL Cool J song, doing it and doing it and doing it. Well, not that way, but certainly Disciple does it well. And I do have a comment that I have to get to that is from Supersonic Sammy Blue, because he's actually personally addressing you. So I have to bring up the comment. So he says, "Oh, hey, Disciple, is it my turn to call you out on Sportswire now?" What's up with that? Is there a beef between you and Supersonic Sammy Blue that I'm missing here, or did I miss something from a couple weeks ago? What's going on there?
He's got a lot to say, Sammy. I respect him. He's a great guy. He listens well when it comes to training and stuff. I think I just think he wants his name in lights, and I think he wants to go up the ladder. And the only way to do that is to have a match with Disciple. That's all I can think of.
You know what you said? See, I'm going to come back to something that actually Slugger Hampton said. You know what? This is what Slugger Hampton's point was in a lot of ways. He feels that you see all these different wrestlers that may not have the experience or the pedigree like yourself, like a Slugger, even like a Bentley, a Gareth Angel. I mean, Gareth Angel pretty much addressed me in his promo before the last GTM show, which, by the way, I tell everybody, feel free. Drop my name whenever way you want. Kyle Kennedy drops my name all the time. RPD, Andre Decker, Chris Brooker and I even went back and forth. That tells you that people just, they name drop me. But there is a point that I think Slugger made that up and coming wrestlers might be trying to make their names off guys like yourself who've been in main events, been in movies, been world champions, been Rumble winners. I mean, do you feel that way that maybe some of these guys are too big for their britches, or what do you think about that?
Absolutely. And listen, if Superstar Sammy Blue wants a match for me just to get his name in lights, I'll happily slap him around, give him a Salvation Spine Buster just to prove a point. Give him what he wants.
Oh, I don't know what's, I love Supersonic Sammy Blue, and he's a phenomenal wrestler, and he's had some big wins of late. But going up against Disciple is not like going up against Dante Okara. It's not like going up against J. Rowe Lewis. And no disrespect to J. Rowe Lewis. Obviously, he's had quite a resume. But Disciple is on another level. You're talking about the big time. You're talking about the big names. So, I mean, I would just say, Supersonic Sammy Blue, big fan of your work, but you might want to tread lightly when it comes to maybe calling out Mr. Disciple, because it's a little different when you speak to Disciple versus somebody else. That would just be my friendly advice. And as crazy as it sounds, again, there might be a point to what Slugger Hampton said here. And if you are on Sportswire Radio, I highly encourage you, give us a like on Facebook at Sportswire Radio, and it keeps going up and up. I think I'm almost up to 500 followers now on Facebook, and certainly I don't even push it. I mean, so I'm glad that people, I see Andrew Jepson just followed. I see some website, dodo.com, just followed us on Facebook. So whoever you might be, I definitely thank you. And if you do like what you hear from some of us here also on Sportswire Radio, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, you can listen to all of our great content on sportnarium.com/play, where we play music, we play talk, we play everything else in between. And if you do like what you hear from Disciple Wrestler on Instagram, can't stress this enough, do give him a follow on Instagram. Also, make sure you like his page on Facebook as well, because he definitely is somebody that you want to make sure you follow for updates, information, matches, YouTube pages out there. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, BTP_Disciple on Twitter. Make sure you follow him on Twitter. And I want to get to my announcement here very quickly before I come back for about 10 or 15 minutes with Disciple, because we know he's a very, very busy man, and he definitely is somebody that works by the hour, kind of like Andre Decker almost, which, by the way, I think would be a great match one day. But hey, we'll see what happens with that. But before I get to Supersonic Sammy Blue, let me make my announcement here, because believe it or not, I am actually going to be meeting in person a current world champion. And he's bigger than Roman Reigns. He's a lot bigger than Jon Moxley, CM Punk, anybody else you throw out there, Jacob Fatu, listen, Josh Alexander, all those different names. He's way bigger than him. And Disciple actually knows who this person is. And that is, of course, the top of the table, the reigning defending LWF champion, Reynaldo, is actually here in New York City. And before he gets on a flight to come back to defend his championship against Davey Getsky in Chorley, we're going to have a sit down, we're going to meet, and we're going to have breakfast. So I cannot wait, ladies and gentlemen, to be meeting with our reigning defending champion, Reynaldo, an exclusive here on Sportswire Radio tomorrow morning. Details to follow, video, picture, all going to come. I cannot wait for this. This is a tremendous opportunity. Thank you, Reynaldo. And really, thank you, Reynaldo's wife, for making it happen, because he got the trip for the family to come to New York City, the Big Apple. So stay tuned for that. I cannot wait. Of course, everybody follow the LWF on Instagram, the LWF Wrestling, also LWF on Twitter, Facebook, like all this stuff. But let's come back to Supersonic Sammy Blue, because I got all that out of the way here. So, and Gareth Angel says, that's awesome. Really happy for you, Ray, because obviously Gareth and Reynaldo have a history here, but certainly I'm not going to pick a side there. I just love Gareth Angel, and I love Reynaldo. Let's just put it that way. Reynaldo's always been a great supporter. But let's come back to Gareth. We'll do that later. But I've been wrestling 2.5 years in total. Nowhere near the experience of Disciple, and I'm still new to the business. That doesn't mean I'm anything to underestimate. However, all in all, big respect to you, Disciple. Just ribbing you. Was that a rib, though? That wasn't a Mr. Perfect like rib, though? No.
I think there's an underhanded comment in there, a little bit of a tactic. But listen, sometimes you got to be careful of what you wish for.
But I do feel like, though, that there's a point. There is a point that is made here that, and Slugger made this, and obviously Gareth Angel kind of addressed it in a sense, and even Killjoy. Killjoy is coming on tomorrow, and he's going to have a face-to-face with Gareth Angel, right? And Goliath did what he did, and he said what he said, and Now it's Crimea River, like the Justin Timberlake song with Goliath, right? So you look at it, and these wrestlers that don't have the resume and the pedigrees. Now, I'm not a professional wrestler, but I've been doing this long enough to kind of get a sense of things. And I've had success in the political world. So I know what it takes to be successful. I know what it takes when you have to have a certain level of respect. And obviously, I would think, though, when it comes to somebody like a Disciple or even a Gareth Angel or a Bentley or a Slugger Hampton, that there would be, if I'm an up-and-coming wrestler, maybe a little bit more of like an acumen, more of like, as I always say, an apprenticeship to learn from me. Not so much to be able to kind of almost make, as the Undertaker would famously say, make yourself famous off your history, your resume. I mean, I almost think maybe there is a point to that, no?
I absolutely agree, 100%. I think Slugger's hit the nail on the head. I think you hit the nail on the head. You know, some of these new kids
Even
on the block.
Gareth kind of mentioned it in that video. He didn't mention it to the tune that you have or Slugger did, but in that promo, I mean, basically everybody's trying to make a name off Gareth Angel. Everybody's trying to make a name off Disciple. Everybody's trying to make a name off Slugger Hampton. Everybody's trying to make a name, even like the Natural Born Fighter, RPD, or anybody else you throw out there that have come on and they're the big names. Lance Rivera is another example. You're somebody you know very, very well. I mean, could you know, we've seen that go on with Simon Hill, I mean, in another company. I mean, so, I mean, I kind of think that people are trying to make their names off your name, but you almost have to go out there and make your name out there in the world. Just like I made my name doing this and other things, just like you made your name in the wrestling world the way you did it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I think if you look back at history with people that have done that, very, very rarely does it pay off for them. So sometimes it's just best to keep your mouth shut and get on with it.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know. I mean, I love Supersonic Sammy Blue. I love some of these guys, and I'm huge fans of everybody. But I do think that there is a point to be made when it comes to wrestlers trying to make names off other. No disrespect. I mean, young Horace, you could say maybe he's a guy who's going about it the right way, where he's been wrestling a long time and he's put his head beneath his tails and he's kind of just, put his head down and going out there and did the work. And now he's starting to have some success. But listen, I mean, each to its own. Whatever works for you. I'm not trying to say that it's not for everybody, but there is a point, especially in wrestling, because wrestling's different. It's not like football around the world. It's not like other sports, boxing. No, wrestling's almost, you have to learn. It's an apprenticeship here. But obviously, we'll come back to all that here. We got about 5 or 10 minutes with Disciple. He's a very, very busy man. We always appreciate his time. But I mean, let's come back to Nonstop Action Wrestling, because obviously we have a champion here in Tommy Dillon, and we'll see what happens with him in the future. I mean, what's next for Disciple then in Nonstop Action Wrestling after not what happened last weekend? What's next for you?
Well, obviously I wasn't present there because I had to let an old injury heal up.
Sure.
So I'm back fighting fit, ready to go again. So, I was in that tournament, so I should have every right at, having a shot at the title, because essentially we all know that I would have been in the final had I been there. So that's something I need to take up with management.
I'm glad you brought this up, because I'm glad I asked it the way I did, because there is a point that you just said in the fact that you didn't lose, correct? You were supposed to be in the Royal, you had an injury, but you didn't lose. Now, I don't know what management will do. I know there's obviously been somebody else that's been added. El Jefe has been added to management. We'll see how that all shakes out. Obviously, that's an unknown. But let me throw this out there. I'll throw it out there in 2 ways. You tell me what you think. I'll go 2 ways. The first way is, should you automatically be the number 1 contender to the world-class title? Or, coming up here, our big show, which is in 2 months or so, around Halloween time here, I mean, should you even be added into that match with young Horace? Because, listen, you didn't lose, and I could make the case that Disciple should be holding that NSAW world-class title right. I mean, what's your thoughts on some of that?
Either way, I'll be happy. Whether it's a triple threat match with Tommy and young Horace. I don't want to take anything away from young Horace. Obviously, he won that battle.
No question. If
it's a title match that he gets, then it's a title match he gets. And if it's I face the winner, I face the winner, whether it be young Horace or Tommy Dillon. Either way, I believe that I'm entitled to a title match.
Well, I'll tell you this much here. I will tell you this much here. I mean, you want me to ask? I'll ask Tommy Dillon himself personally next Thursday. I mean, we're bringing him on. We're getting the first crack to speak with him. He confirmed it with us. I mean, do you want me to ask him, hey, you know what, Tommy Dillon, you are the wild card. You've been a fighting champion. You've been a fighting guy. I mean, you want me to say, hey, add Disciple into the mix there?
Listen, I know Tommy's a fighting guy. I know that he'll be a fighting champion. So one thing that we've never had is a one-on-one in all the years that we've both been wrestling. So I think he'd be up for it.
And I think that would be a very, very intriguing fight that would sell a lot of tickets. But let me get to a comment here, which I think is an interesting one, which I think goes off what we've been talking about. J-Ro made it all the way to the final. That was meant to be your spot. I'll even go further. Tommy Dillon, Disciple, is holding your championship right now. He's been, you know what? We speak all the time about Jack Johnson basically on borrowed time and Jack Johnson basically holding the title for somebody else, whether it's Gareth, yourself, or Slugger, Bentley, Sean Only, you name him, right? We always say Jack Johnson, he's holding the title and he's on borrowed time. He's holding it temporary. He's basically a temporary champion, right? Or they would say a transition champion, right? But, I mean, Tommy Dillon is the perfect example of somebody that's keeping, I guess, the shoulders warm, the waist warm, whatever you want to call it. You're a shoulder guy, so the shoulder ready for you. I mean, he's basically holding your championship. That's the way I think some might see that.
Absolutely, Tom. I think you've hit it spot on there, really. Listen, I like Tommy. You know, he's a great guy.
He's a great guy.
We go back quite a few years, but I know he's a fighting champion, and that probably is going to be his downfall because when he fights against me, there's only one outcome.
And the outcome's going to be Disciple coming on top, and again, promising the fact, as he stated here, 12 months, although I've said it here as the host of the Sports Report, the station manager of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce, that's going to happen sooner than 12 months because, again, I do the math, right? We got Stairway to Heaven next month. We got that match you're in. We're obviously a part of Chronicles. Then we've got NSAW's show coming up in October. If, for whatever reason, you get added into that title match. So the way I see it, you could be holding 2 championships within, I guess, do the math. I don't know, 3 months, 4 months. I mean, I'm not good at math, obviously. So the point is, it's going to be a lot sooner than 12 months here. And obviously, we'll certainly see what happens when it comes to all that there. And anything else you want to say related to GT Ministries? I mean, I know we have Sean Only in action. Anything else of note that we should know about here maybe before the next couple of weeks? Something tells me here when we get Tommy on, you're going to have a lot of responses for that. Anything else GTM related you want me to mention?
Well, I'll definitely be watching Wrestling Church to see who wins against Bentley and Boylan and Sean Only and Rarebit. You know,
Sean Only and Rarebit's a tough one, by the way. That's a really, really difficult match to call. I mean, I would have to say, look, if you're asking me Bentley and Boylan, I'm going to say Bentley's got a clear edge. Bentley right now is motivated. But Sean Only and Rarebit, I mean, I don't know where to go on that one.
Yeah, I mean, they're both great guys, both talented guys. Again, it'd be interesting to watch, but I think it'll be interesting to see who wins and then who joins me and Slugger for the Stairway to Heaven match, because that will be an absolute, as JR would put it, a slobber knocker.
Oh, I would say, as some would also say, a banger. That is going to be a banger, and you guys are literally going to bang each other up and down the ring. And certainly, I wonder how those rings will hold up here for sure. Those ropes, I'll definitely tread very lightly. But what a great show. And of course, all things related to GT Ministries. GT Ministries UK on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, you name it, Twitter. It's all GT Ministries UK. Also, NSAW Wrestling UK, NSAW Wrestling _UK on Twitter as well. Also, subscribe to the YouTube page. All great things related to NSAW and, of course, GTM nonstop, never stop. And ladies and gentlemen, Disciple is going to be nonstop and never stop until he gets that championship, and then he gets that GT Ministries championship. And in fact, Disciple is going to have 2. Listen, we were talking with Chris Murphy, and Chris Murphy was saying, well, I was the first guy that was before Becky 2 belts with 2 belts because he's actually still a champion, right? I think he's Pro Wrestling of Glory champion. And he's got the tag team champion there. He's still holding it around. He showed that for us. And he was saying I was the first before Becky. But let me tell you something. Disciple is going to be better than Becky. He's going to be better than Roman. He's going to be better than anybody else who's been a double champion because I see it coming. I just see it. There's a whole new level that Disciple is on here. So we can't wait for all of that. So I want to give you the floor. I want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything you want to plug, share, say, and the floor is yours, my friend. And I can't thank you enough and fire away.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Again, yeah, just keep an eye out on my socials. I've got some interesting announcements coming up. I've been a little bit quiet of late. Again, just wanted to heal up on some old injuries. But yeah, a few things coming up in the pipeline, which is really, really exciting. And I'm really looking forward to what the next 6 months hold.
Hopefully some movies. Any movies in the pipeline? I mean, I like to see, because I saw RPD. I think it was like last week or the week before I saw him doing as a bit spot in a movie or TV
Coronation
film, whatever.
Street, so yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. So, I mean, we got to have something from you in the pike as well, because you're a little better looking than Natural Born Fighter RP Davis. You've got a little bit more acting credits. I mean, I'm sure Lance Rivera can do something about that, because he's actually going to be wrestling RPD next week and over at the Kingdom of Wrestling. But I hope more movies in the pipeline. That's all I'm going to say before we go. I hope there is more movies in the pipeline for me, more films, TV. I mean, because look at that face. I mean, it's definitely a face for TV. Not like me, who's a face for radio. He's definitely got a face for TV, but also Disciple Wrestler on Instagram, BTP_Disciple on Twitter. Subscribe to his new YouTube page. And especially if you're a younger wrestler, you're a newer wrestler, and you're learning and you're not going to those training seminars that Disciple has, go watch those matches, whether it's anybody you've seen. Ricky Knight, you fill in the blanks. Brian Aidenson matches are out there. Lance Rivera matches are out there. Go watch this man's matches, and I'm telling you, go watch how he does a spine buster. It is definitely the best in the business, my friend. Can't wait to watch you next month at GTM. Can't wait to get you on here before GTM. Hopefully we see it at NSAW Asylum show, and we'll definitely speak with you soon here, my friend. I can't wait. We are here on Sportswire Radio, and we will be back tomorrow night, 8 p.m. British Standard Time, live in a Killjoy and Goliath War of Words here. And then we will have the return of Wildfire Nate Reese to follow right afterwards. Well, we'll speak about the LWF Summer Smash show, and we'll speak about the man that I'm going to see tomorrow in New York, the Big Apple, Reynaldo, the top of the table. Hopefully he has that LWF championship with him, but something tells me that Mr. Bibby said don't travel international with that. But we'll certainly see about all of that here. And also Supersonic Sammy Blue says, let's get Disciple on Sammy on the Street. The skit writes itself. Ooh. Well,
let's do it. Let's do it.
Oh, boy. You heard it here first on Sportswire Radio. We'll make sure that gets out there. Sammy on the Street with Disciple. I mean, if you saw the last one with Champ Rogers, this is going to be a doozy. Like he said, a slobber knocker. So all great stuff there. If you're on sportnarium.com/player, you'll go back to your regularly scheduled program. If you're on Facebook here at Sportswire Radio, stay tuned tomorrow because I'll have some pictures, maybe a video or two. I'll do a little bit of a short interview with Reynaldo. I'm sure I'll ask him some thoughts on Davey Getsky, and he'll be holding the title see how long. And if he gets through Saturday, maybe Disciple will take that title too. Who knows what else? And also we'll have, again, Killjoy and Goliath, 8 o'clock tomorrow, and Wildfire Nate Reese right afterwards. Thank you, everybody. I am the host of the Sports Report, the station manager here of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. Thank you, everyone. Good night. And Disciple Wrestler on Instagram, BTB Disciple, also on Twitter. Also follow him on YouTube as well. Thank you.